All right, so our last rotation notes, this is where we take about the origin is actually 8th grade, which you learned in 8th grade. Now that we're in geometry, we now need to look at what happens if we are going we're going to a point that is not at the origin, okay? So we also need to remember, again, we're always going to go counterclockwise, always. This year in geometry, that's what we're doing. So in this figure, we don't have a graph, but we're going to take each of these points and rotate them around another point and figure out where are we going to end up at. So what that means is if you did get patty paper from your teacher, what you're going to want to do is take that piece of patty paper, probably should have gotten about maybe like 2. You're going to want to cut those in 4 so you have a tinier piece. Okay, you don't have the big piece anymore, but you got the tinier piece because that's all you need for this worksheet, I promise. Here, we're going to rotate 90 degrees. We're going to rotate point C 90 degrees about D. What that means is D is going to be, point D will be the center of rotation. So on the patty paper, I just need to make sure that I have point C and point D. That's why we can use the little guy here. So what we're going to do is point D, about point D, is going to be our center of rotation. So we're going to trace that point. Remember when we did about the origin, we traced the X and Y axes. So we could tell exactly where we need to line back up. So what we need to do is do a little plus sign through point D, because that's our center of rotation. And then we're moving point C. So make sure that you have point C up here. So we're going to move around point D. So again, it may sound confusing. Watch what I'm doing with the patty paper. 90 degrees is 1/4 a turn. So we're going to rotate this little plus sign till it lines back up. One time counterclockwise. Watch what I'm doing. We're going to go 1 turn, and that's it. Okay? Again, I'll show it. We're going to rotate it 1 turn, and that's it. Line it back up. And we want to know what point do we end up at. So here, if we look where C is, we'll lift up that patty paper. What point is there? We have point P. Okay? Next, we're going to rotate point F 180 degrees, because we can highlight all of them, about point L. So what that means now is I'm going to take point L and point F here and here and make sure they're both under my patty paper. Point L is what we're moving around, so that's where we're going to want that little plus sign at, so we know what to line up. And then here's point F, what we're rotating around point L. We're going 180 degrees counterclockwise, so that means 2 of the 4 turns, 1/2, 2 of the 4. So we're going to rotate once and twice. And what point do we land at? Well, if you can see it through, we're going to wind up at point H. Lastly here, we are going to rotate point K 270 degrees about point D. So let's make sure that point K and point D, here they are here, are both under the patty paper. We're going about point D. So point D is where we're going to want that plus sign. And then we'll go ahead and label point K. And 270 is 3/4 a turn, so 3 turns, counterclockwise always. So we're going to go about this one, 1, 2, and 3. And where do we wind up at? You might be able to see it through the paper. If not, lift it up. We wind out at point J. All right, so next, let's start taking a look at when we have this on the graph. So we're going to have to do a couple things here. We're going to need, again, we're only going to need 3 of the small pieces because we only have 3 problems here. All right, I think I'm going to switch up what I'm going to write with also, because the permanent marker. Actually, just going to go ahead and stick with the permanent marker. We're going to take a look at this first problem. It says, you will now rotate pre-image 90 degrees about a point not on the origin. So we're going 90 degrees, not on the origin. This is the point we're going to rotate around, no longer right here. Okay? So we're going to take A, B, and C, and we're going to rotate it. Well, obviously, the first thing we need to do is get A, B, and C points on there. So go ahead. Now that I have my points on there, again, because we're not looking at drawing the triangle on there right this second for the image after we rotate, you can just put the points, but it's nice to have that figure on there all connected together. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and take this small piece of patty paper. Remember, all that's important is the fact that we have the point of rotation and all points on the pre-image on here. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take the, just like we did before, we're going to go ahead and take the point of rotation, hold it very, very still in place. Don't let it move after you put your point of rotation or your center of rotation on there. Here's going to be your center of rotation. I'm going to go ahead and put a little plus, so I have those little crosshairs. I'm going to try my hardest here. There we go. That looks good enough. And then I'm going to, with that perfectly in line, we'll hold that in place. I'm going to go ahead and put point A, point B, and point C. Now, there's no rule to follow on these, guys. I'm sorry. There's no rule to follow. You're going to have to physically, the patty paper is going to be your best bet on this one, okay? So we're going to go 90 degrees around this point that we just put here. So that's one turn, again, going counterclockwise. So watching this point right here, I'm going to rotate around that point one time until the crosshairs meet up. Bam. And now I've got my A, B, and C prime. So what I want you to do is I want you to get those coordinates on your own and fill them in right here. Go ahead and do that on your own. Pause the video. These are your A, B, and C prime points right here. Check with yours to make sure. Again, if we take a look at it right here, that's where they're going to fall. Okay? Let me get my hand out of the way so you guys can see. So you see there's real no pattern here. Okay? There's some calculations and stuff. You could use the chords, but we're not, it's going to take way too long to use the patty paper. Let's take a look at the next one. Now we're going to go 180 degrees, about a point not on the origin. So again, what I need you to do is I'm going to pause the video, go plot point A, B, and C on the graph on your own. Do that now. Now that we have that done, we're going to grab that patty paper again. Rough side up. Make sure the important things that we have the center of rotation, the point we're rotating around, covered, and the points on our pre-image. And let's go ahead and trace everything. Okay? So again, we're going to trace that point, that center of rotation. Put a little marks here, a little line so we can know what to rotate around. And then we'll put our points and label them so we know which point is where. So at 180 degrees, again, if you're not ready, pause it. Okay? We're 180. We have that 2 out of the 4 turns. So focusing on this point up here, the center of rotation, where we put that little plus sign, we're going to rotate counterclockwise 1, 2. And notice that the center rotation, that big black dot, is still underneath. Okay? We're not over here or something. We're right on top of it. All right? That center rotation does not change. So go ahead, looking at this, I want you to go ahead and figure out what your prime points are. I'm going to, it's going to jump straight to the point. So I want you to pause it, figure them out, and then resume, please. Here should be your A prime, B prime, and C prime points. Okay, again, no pattern between the pre-image and the image points. We're going to need to go ahead and definitely use this patty paper to help us out. Last one. We're almost done, guys. We're now going to go, oh, geez, really? Who'd have thunk? 270 degrees. So we're going to do 270 degrees again, located not at the origin. Now they're going to say it's you're going to have what's called a segment. We'll get more into that in the next unit. What's going to happen is we're not going to have a polygon and a closed figure with 3 or more sides like we've had before. Okay? We're actually just going to have 2 points connected together, which we'll learn in the next unit is a is a line segment. So we have J at 1, -4, and K at 4, -1. What I want you to do now is go plot those 2 points, connect the 2 together. All right, now that we got JK on there, go ahead, take that patty paper, and even though it's not a triangle like the other 2, no big deal. We're going to do the exact same thing that we need. Our center of rotation is under the patty paper, so are all the points we need to rotate. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing we've been doing. Let's go ahead and trace that center of rotation. Make sure we put those lines, little crosshairs, so we can line them up. Here's point J, label it. Here's point K, label it. Now we're going to go 270. Remember, counterclockwise. And we're going to go 270 is 3 of the 4. So focusing on this point of the center rotation, making sure it stays where it stays, we're going to go 1, 2, and 3. Make sure the center rotation is lined up. Make sure that your little crosshairs, that little plus sign, is lined up. And then we can see where point J prime and K prime are. Get those coordinates on your own and fill them in where you can't see because my hands are going. Fill them in right here for J prime and this is what you should have come up with for your J prime and K prime as you see on the screen. And that is the end of rotations.